Have you ever been told by your own father that the home you bought, the apartment you worked your fingers to the bone for, should be handed over to someone else? Someone who never worked a day in their life for it? That's exactly what happened to me, and when I refused, the consequences were explosive. But here's the twist. I'm not the villain in this story. Stay until the end because what I did at that family party will leave you speechless. Before we dive in, if you enjoy stories about standing up for yourself and dealing with toxic family drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. Picture this. I'm sitting in my apartment, the apartment I saved for years to buy, when I get a phone call from my father. Now, my father and I have a complicated relationship, to say the least. We'll get into that in a minute. But this call was about to change everything. "We need to talk," he says. Those 4 words that never mean anything good. I could hear it in his voice, that tone he uses when he's already made up his mind about something and he's just going through the motions of pretending to consult me. "It's about your brother," he continues. "Ah, yes, my brother, the golden child, the prince who could do no wrong. I should have known." My father goes on to explain that my younger brother, let's call him Jake, recently got married. Congratulations to him, right? Wrong. Apparently, getting married means he now needs stability. He needs a proper home to start his family. He needs, wait for it, my apartment. Yes, you heard that right. My father actually called me to suggest, no, to tell me that I should hand over my apartment to my newly married brother because he needs it more than I do. I sat there in silence for a moment, phone pressed to my ear, wondering if I had somehow slipped into an alternate universe. Was this really happening? Was my father seriously asking me to give up the home I worked so hard for? "Dad," I finally said, trying to keep my voice steady, "you do remember that I bought this apartment, right? With my own money. Money I earned working 60-hour weeks for the past 5 years. The silence on the other end told me he wasn't interested in those details. "Your brother is starting a new chapter in his life," he replied, as if that explained everything. "He needs support from his family. You're established now. You can find another place. He's just starting out." Just starting out. Those words echoed in my head. Just starting out. My brother is 28 years old. I'm 32. When I was 28, I was already 3 years into my career, living in a tiny studio apartment, eating ramen noodles for dinner, and saving every penny I could. When I was 28, I was already completely independent. But Jake? Jake is just starting out. Let me tell you about my childhood, because this is where you'll understand why this phone call felt like a punch to the gut. When I turned 18, my father sat me down and gave me what he called the talk. It wasn't about the birds and the bees, it was about survival. "Son, you're a man now. It's time for you to make your own way in the world. I've given you everything up until this point, but now you need to be independent. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I was scared, I'll admit it, but I also felt a strange sense of excitement. My father was pushing me to be independent, to be strong, to be self-sufficient. I thought he was teaching me valuable life lessons. I thought he was preparing me for the real world. So that's what I did. I got a job, I moved out, I paid my own rent, my own bills, my own everything. When I wanted to go to college, I took out student loans because my father said it would build character to pay my own way. When I graduated and couldn't find a job in my field right away, I worked 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet. No one helped me. No one gave me a handout. I scrimped and saved for years. I lived in apartments where the heat barely worked in winter. I wore the same clothes for years because I couldn't afford new ones. I watched my friends go on vacations while I worked overtime. I missed birthdays, holidays, and social events because I was busy building my future. And slowly, painfully, I climbed my way up. I got better jobs, I earned promotions, I invested wisely, I learned about real estate, and finally, After years of sacrifice, I had enough money for a down payment on my own place. The day I bought my apartment was one of the proudest moments of my life. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't in the best neighborhood, but it was mine. Every square foot of it represented years of hard work, sacrifice, and determination. I had done it. I had achieved the independence my father had pushed me toward all those years ago. I thought he would be proud. I thought he would see that his tough love had paid off, that I had become exactly the kind of man he wanted me to be. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. While I was out there grinding, struggling, and building my life from scratch, my younger brother Jake was living a very different reality. Jake was the golden child from day one. I don't know why. Maybe he was planned while I was a surprise. Maybe he just had a personality that meshed better with my parents. Maybe it was simply the fact that he was the baby of the family. Whatever the reason, Jake got a completely different set of rules. When Jake turned 18, there was no talk about independence. There was no push to get a job. Instead, my parents paid for his college education in full. Not loans, not scholarships. They just wrote the checks. They bought him a car when he graduated high school. They paid his rent when he went to college. They gave him an allowance, even as an adult, so he could focus on his studies without the stress of working. When Jake decided he didn't like his major after 2 years, they supported him switching and paid for 2 extra years of school. When he graduated and decided he wanted to find himself before starting his career, they paid for him to backpack through Europe for 6 months. I'm not saying Jake is a bad person. He's my brother, and there's a part of me that still loves him. But he's also someone who has never had to struggle for anything in his life. Every safety net, every cushion, every backup plan has been provided for him. He's now 28 years old with a spotty work history, no savings to speak of, and no idea how to handle real adult responsibilities. And now he's married. His wedding was a lavish affair, of course. My parents paid for most of it. I was invited, naturally, and I went because I'm not a monster. I congratulated Jake and his new wife, I smiled for photos, and I kept my mouth shut about the inequality I had experienced. What good would it do to bring it up? The past was the past, right? But then came that phone call from my father, the one where he told me I needed to give my apartment to Jake. He needs stability right now, my father explained. Starting a marriage is hard enough without worrying about housing. You've been on your own for years. You know how to handle change. Jake needs this more than you do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, with all due respect, Jake is an adult. If he needs housing, he can rent an apartment like everyone else, like I did. My father's voice got harder. Your brother hasn't had the same opportunities to save money that you have. He needs family support right now. This is what families do. They help each other. I almost laughed. Opportunities to save money? Jake has had every opportunity handed to him on a silver platter. He just spent them all on fun and experiences while I was being responsible. But I held my tongue. I'm sorry, Dad, I said as calmly as I could. But no, this is my home. I worked hard for it and I'm not giving it up. The conversation did not go well after that. My father accused me of being selfish. He said I was being cruel to my brother during an important time in his life. He said I had clearly forgotten what family means. And then he said something that made my blood boil. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. After everything they've done for me? I wanted to scream into the phone. What exactly had they done for me after I turned 18? They taught me to be independent, sure, but that was the extent of their involvement. Meanwhile, Jake got a free ride for a decade. I hung up the phone that day, thinking maybe that was the end of it. Maybe my father would cool down and realize how ridiculous his request was. But I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, I started getting calls from other family members. My mother called, crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. My aunt called, suggesting I was being unreasonable and that I should think about Jake's new wife and their future. Even my grandmother got involved, sending me a long text message about the importance of family unity. It was like they had all coordinated a campaign to pressure me into giving up my home. And Jake? Jake himself called me one evening. "Hey, big brother," he said, using that casual tone that suggested this was no big deal. "Look, I heard Dad talk to you about the apartment situation. I just wanted to reach out personally. My wife and I really could use a stable place right now, and your apartment would be perfect for us. I know it's a lot to ask, but family helps family, right? Plus, I'm sure you can find another place easily with your job and everything." The entitlement in his voice was staggering. He genuinely believed I should just hand over my home because he asked nicely. "Jake," I said, trying to remain calm, "I bought this apartment with my own money. It's not a family resource to be redistributed. If you need housing, you and your wife need to figure that out on your own, just like every other married couple does." He got defensive immediately. "Why are you being like this? I'm your brother. Don't you want me to succeed?" I did want him to succeed, but I also wanted him to earn his success, not have it handed to him at my expense. We argued for a while before I finally ended the call. I thought maybe, just maybe, they would all eventually drop it. But then the family party happened. My parents host a big family gathering every few months. It's tradition. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone comes. It's usually a nice time, lots of food, lots of catching up. I debated whether to go to this one given the tension over the apartment situation, but I ultimately decided to attend. I wasn't going to let them push me out of family events just because I refused to give up my home. Big mistake, or maybe the best decision I ever made. I still haven't decided. The party started normally enough. I arrived, said hello to everyone, grabbed some food, but I could feel the tension in the air. People were giving me looks, some sympathetic, some judgmental. My father barely acknowledged me. My mother looked stressed, and Jake was there with his new wife looking like the perfect young couple starting their lives together. About an hour into the party, my father decided to make a speech. He clinked his glass to get everyone's attention, and the room fell silent. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," he began. "Family is the most important thing in life, and it's wonderful to have everyone together." He went on for a bit about the importance of family, of supporting each other, of being there in times of need. And then he said it, "Which is why I'm disappointed that not everyone in this family understands what it means to support each other. Some people," he looked directly at me, "put their own selfish desires above the needs of their family." The room got very quiet. Everyone was looking at me now. I felt my face flush with anger and embarrassment. Was he really doing this? Was he really calling me out in front of the entire family? "My youngest son," he continued, gesturing to Jake, "is starting an important new chapter in his life. He's recently married and he needs stability. He needs a proper home. And yet his own brother," again that pointed look at me, "refuses to help him when he has the means to do so. It's a shame when we forget that family should come first." I stood there, frozen, as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people were nodding in agreement with my father. Others looked uncomfortable. I could see Jake looking down at his feet, his wife beside him looking smug. This was a coordinated attack. They thought if they publicly shamed me, I would cave. They thought wrong. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was years of resentment finally boiling over. Maybe it was the injustice of being called selfish after everything I had been through. Maybe it was just pure rage at being ambushed like this. Whatever it was, I knew I wasn't going to stand there and take it. I stepped forward, and all eyes turned to me. "Can I say something?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. My father looked taken aback. He clearly hadn't expected me to respond. "Of course," he said. No, I could tell he regretted giving me the floor. I took a deep breath and began. "Since we're talking about family and support, I think it's important that everyone here knows the full story. Yes, my father is right. I do own an apartment that I bought with money I saved over 5 years of working 60-hour weeks, money that I earned entirely on my own with no help from anyone." I looked around the room. People were listening. When I turned 18, my father sat me down and told me it was time to be independent, time to make my own way in the world. And I did exactly that. I got a job, I paid my own rent, I took out student loans for college, I worked multiple jobs to pay my bills. No one gave me money, no one bought me a car, no one paid my rent. I was taught that independence and self-sufficiency were the most important things. I could see my father's face starting to redden, but I wasn't done. So I worked. I sacrificed. I lived in terrible apartments. I wore the same clothes for years. I missed vacations and fun experiences because I was being responsible and saving money. And finally, after years of this, I bought my apartment that I earned, that I paid for. I turned to look at Jake. Now, my younger brother is a great guy. I love him, but let me tell everyone here what his 18 years looked like. When Jake turned 18, there was no talk of independence. Our parents paid for his entire college education, no loans needed. They bought him a car, they paid his rent, they gave him an allowance through his 20s. When he wanted to change majors, they paid for extra years of school. When he wanted to backpack through Europe, they funded that too. The room was silent now. Some relatives were looking at my parents with surprise. Clearly, they hadn't known about this disparity. I'm not saying Jake doesn't deserve to be helped by our parents. That's their choice how they spend their money and who they support. But what I am saying is that I was raised with one set of rules. Be independent, work hard, don't ask for help. And Jake was raised with a completely different set of rules. Family will always be there to support you. You don't need to struggle. I looked back at my father. So now, after I followed your rules, after I did exactly what you told me to do, you want me to give up what I earned to someone who has never had to earn anything? You want to take away the result of my years of sacrifice and hand it to someone who has been given everything. My father tried to interrupt, but I kept going. And then, when I rightfully refused to give up my home, you call me selfish? In front of our entire family? You try to shame me for not supporting family when I received no support when I needed it most. I could see some relatives nodding now. Others were looking at my parents with disappointment. The tide was turning. Let me make this clear to everyone here, I said, my voice firm. I am not giving up my apartment. I worked too hard for it. I sacrificed too much, and I will not be shamed for refusing to hand over what I earned to someone who has never had to work for anything in his life. Then I turned to Jake. Jake, I love you as my brother, but it's time for you to grow up. You're 28 years old and married. It's time to figure out your own housing situation like every other adult has to do. Stop expecting everything to be handed to you. The room erupted. Some people started arguing with each other. My father was furious, his face bright red. My mother was crying. Jake looked humiliated and his wife looked angry. Some relatives came up to me and quietly said they supported me. Others kept their distance, clearly siding with my parents. I didn't care. I had said what needed to be said. My father stormed over to me. "How dare you embarrass this family like that?" he hissed. "You owe your brother an apology. You owe all of us an apology." "I don't owe anyone anything," I said. "You want an apology? How about you apologize for the years of unequal treatment? How about you apologize for trying to take away what I worked so hard for? How about you apologize for publicly shaming me when I did nothing wrong?" He demanded that I apologize right then and there. My mother joined in, begging me to just say sorry so the family could move past this. Jake and his wife were standing nearby, both of them glaring at me with such hatred it was almost funny. They all expected me to cave. They expected me to back down, apologize, and maybe even reconsider giving up my apartment just to keep the peace. I looked at all of them, my father with his demands, my mother with her tears, my brother with his entitlement, and all the relatives watching this family drama unfold, and I made a decision. "No," I said simply. "I will not apologize. I have nothing to apologize for." The room went silent again. My father looked like he might explode. "If that's how you feel, then maybe you're not welcome in this family anymore." It was meant to be a threat, a final push to get me to comply. Instead, it was liberating. If being part of this family means giving up my home, my boundaries, and my self-respect, then maybe I don't want to be part of it. And with that, I walked out of the party. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just left. I got in my car and drove back to my apartment, the one I had worked so hard for, and I sat there in the silence, trying to process what had just happened. In the days that followed, my phone blew up with messages. My father sent angry texts demanding an apology. My mother sent sad messages saying I was breaking her heart. Jake sent messages calling me every name in the book. Other relatives chimed in with their opinions, some supporting me, others condemning me. I ignored most of them. But I also did something I should have done years ago. I blocked my father's number. I blocked my mother's number. I blocked Jake's number. I cut them off completely. Some people might think that's harsh. Some people might say family is family and you should always try to work things out. But here's what I learned. Family is only family if there's mutual respect, support, and fairness. What I had wasn't family. It was a one-sided relationship where I was expected to give and give and give while receiving nothing in return. I was expected to follow rules that didn't apply to anyone else. I was expected to sacrifice my hard-earned success for someone else's convenience. No, I'm done with that. I chose myself. I chose my apartment, my boundaries, and my peace of mind. And you know what? I don't regret it for a second. Some extended family members still reach out to me occasionally. A few cousins who understood my side have stayed in touch. But my immediate family? I haven't spoken to them in months. And honestly, my life has been so much more peaceful without the constant pressure, judgment, and inequality. Do I miss having a family? Sometimes. The holidays are quieter now, birthdays feel a little empty. But I don't miss the stress, the drama, or the feeling of never being good enough unless I was sacrificing myself for others. My apartment is still mine. I come home every day to a place that represents my hard work and independence. No one can take that away from me. And that feeling of ownership, of having something that's truly mine because I earned it, is worth more than any forced family harmony. I learned an important lesson through all of this. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You cannot sacrifice your own well-being, your own success, your own happiness just to make other people comfortable. That's not love, that's self-destruction. Real family supports you, celebrates your success, and respects your boundaries. Real family doesn't ask you to give up what you worked for so someone else can have it without working. So to anyone out there dealing with a similar situation, whether it's about an apartment, money, time, or anything else, I want you to know this. It's okay to say no. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to protect what you've worked hard for. And it's okay to walk away from people who refuse to respect you, even if they're family. You are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cruel for saying no. You are not wrong for expecting to be treated fairly. And you don't owe anyone an apology for standing up for yourself. My father taught me to be independent, and I took that lesson to heart. Maybe too well for his liking, but I'm living proof that you can survive and even thrive without people who don't truly have your best interests at heart. To my father, if you ever hear this, thank you for teaching me independence. I learned that lesson better than you ever intended. To Jake, I hope you figure out how to stand on your own 2 feet someday. You're capable of more than you think, but you'll never know until you actually try. And to anyone watching this video, remember that your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice for others. Your worth is inherent, and you deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor without guilt. Stand your ground, protect your peace, and never apologize for choosing yourself. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself and dealing with family drama. And leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been in a similar situation? How did you handle it? Let me know. Until next time, remember, you are enough exactly as you are.